Hey everyone, welcome to the M&R Show. I'm Ron.
And I'm Malcolm.
I'm Isaiah.
All right, now we haven't been on YouTube for a while, so we thought we were gonna come with a banger. Everybody dropping their QB list, so we decided to drop ours. So I'm gonna start with mine first. Now this is Ronald Rod's top 10 QBs list. Let's start it. Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, because those are just they're in a tier by themselves. Lamar is very close. Then it's Lamar, Desean Watson, Dak, and Carson Wentz. Those are my next four. I know people probably thinking that I'm crazy for putting Dak over Carson and Rodgers. We've already had our Carson Wentz argument, so I'm not going to get into it. Then at 8, I decided to put Tom Brady. At 9, Drew Brees. And at 10, my pet cat, Kyler Murray. Because I do love Kyler Murray a lot, and I think by the end of the season, he will be recognized as a top 10 quarterback.
Okay, so this means I'm next. So, on my podcast, I do a lot of quarterback breakdowns. I decipher the quarterbacks. People think I hate Baker. I don't hate Baker, but Baker's not on this list. Baker's not on this list. So my top 10 quarterbacks. This is Isaiah's top 10 quarterbacks. Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson. I think these two are easy. If you don't have these two on top of your list, I don't even think we can talk about a list. Just Russell Wilson does Houdini. He should have an MVP. We're not going to talk about that. Patrick Mahomes obviously is the best. Is probably the most talented quarterback we ever saw in our lives. Then Lamar, I think, is very close. Like you said, I think he's very close into that next caliber. But the next step for Lamar is winning playoff games because he's an MVP. We know he's talented. We know what he's to do. He's a game breaker. But it's the next step for Lamar. And I think with this varsity he has, I think he's going to do it. Then next at number 4, I have Aaron Rodgers, of course, all-world talent, even though I do see some decline in slippage. Then 5, Desean Watson. Similar to Russell Wilson, battle lines, mediocre defenses, hit-or-miss defenses, questionable coach in Bill O'Brien, but he still continues to win games and put up good numbers. I have Carson Wentz at 6, Tom Brady at 7, Drew Brees at 8, Jimmy Garoppolo at 9, and Kyler Murray at 10. I had a notable mention, Matt Ryan, too. Matt Ryan, notable mention, but Kyler Murray is my last and 10th quarterback.
Well, it's a nice list that y'all have. I see how y'all added Kyler Murray to the topic, which it's another topic for another day. But let me explain to you my top 10. For first you have the one tier, and that's Patrick Mahomes and Russell Wilson. They can help you lead a team just by putting them up there. You got Lamar Jackson. You got Desean Watson. You see what he does. He's still a top 5 quarterback in the league. I think Aaron Rodgers is still a top 5 quarterback in the league. I think he just needs more receivers, which is understandable as you watch these Green Bay Packer games. Number 6, I have Matt Ryan. Let's not forget, Matt Ryan has been on a stretch where, last year I didn't understand that his interceptions went up, but the last 2 seasons he had over 25 touchdowns. And 2 seasons ago when he had not a fully healthy squad, but like a fully healthy offense, he had 35 touchdowns and 7 picks, which was an MVP type of candidate, but his defense was injured, inconsistent, and stuff like that. So let's not forget about Matt Ryan, what he can do this year. I think he's a dark horse this year based on a level of health that they can be able to be healthy. Let's see if Todd Gurley passed, the physical. So let's see if he can be healthy. And the defense, let's see the defense. Yeah, the defense could be healthy this year. And another thing could change. This is Dan Quinn's last year. He's on a hot seat, so let's see what he's going to do with the defense. I have trust on it. Number 7 is Tom Brady. At the end of the day, Tom Brady is still a top 10 quarterback, and especially with the receiving core that he has this year in Buccaneers, deadly. Drew Brees is still there because Drew Brees is adding a Emmanuel Sanders already to a Michael Thomas, and already still has a very good receiving core. So let's understand that he's still a top 10 quarterback to me. Number 9 is Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz is finally getting a healthy receiving core. I don't remember the last time Carson Wentz even had the healthy receiving core. So you give a chance or opportunity for Carson Wentz to add, to have a healthy receiving core where they add some speedsters, especially they got Desean Jackson coming back. It will be a good year for Carson Wentz. And number 10, I would say Dak. I think Dak is more like a Kirk Cousins to me. So I know that he's going to produce. I know he's going to put, numbers on the board, numbers on the field. But at the end of the day, I just think that he just got into the top 10, and that's it. So.
Wow. Okay.
That's
wow.
it.
Okay. So since I'm the only guy that doesn't have Dak Prescott, I must have missed the memo. So, you guys, I found it quite laughable, and it's no disrespect to Dak, because I'm a Cowboy supporter, and I've been, I try to be as much as possible pro Cowboy, but I gotta tell it how it is. Dak, like you said, he reminds me more of Kirk Cousins, Ryan Tannehill-ish. I've been breaking down. I've been breaking down Dak's metrics. I've been breaking down Dak metrics, and that's what it lines up to. He's 10th since he's entered the league. Dak is tied for 10th in win percentage. He's tied for 13th in playoff wins. He's tied for 13th in productivity. And then he's tied for first in availability. Now, I know some people are going to say, well, Carson Wentz don't play 14. He don't play 16 games. Carson Wentz is so good. If he plays 14 games, I believe Carson Wentz is going to win 10 out of those 14 games, more times than not. So with you guys, with the Dak, why are you guys so high on Dak? Because when I look at Dak, I think of Dak. He has the perfect situation. Now let me just break down his talent. Dak's talent, out of all these guys, Dak is probably the least talented. Dak doesn't have a great arm. He's not a great athlete. Accuracy, okay. Why are you guys so high on Dak?
Okay, I would like to talk before the big Cowboys fan talk. But let me say something before the Cowboys fan talk. Number one, let me tell you, I don't care about that. I don't think Dak should be my top 10. But at the end of the day, I'm going to think that, number one, you have CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, you have Amari Cooper, and you have Ezekiel Elliott. You have the receiving core to at least have some numbers that produce to, respectable as a top 10. That's why I think that he's in the Kirk Cousins range. Because I feel the same thing with Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins produced good with talent around him. And I think the same thing with Dak Prescott. If Dak Prescott has talent around him, he'll be able to produce. And I think that the numbers that he should be putting up should be top 10. And I'm saying that the Cowboys are going to do anything with it? No. And I don't really care what the Cowboys do with it. But at the end of the day, I think that Dak Prescott should, with the receiving core around him, should have put up numbers to put him in the top 10, numbers-wise. Talent-wise, we know he's not there. I know that.
Yeah, let me just put this out there. I don't care about talent. Matthew Stafford is talented. What has he done with that talent? I could care less. Tom Brady isn't that talented. Peyton Manning was always the more talented than Tom Brady. Always, in everything. He was more athletic, had a bigger arm, was more accurate. This is talent. Your intangibles, that's a talent. To be smart is a talent. To make people like you. Aaron Rodgers, as big as his thing, people don't like you. It's hard for people to come play for you if they don't like you. This is why a lot of players, I'm not even gonna get too much into it, but people have to want to play with you. People have to respect you. I think Wentz is very good at that as well, so I'm not gonna go too far in that. But I mean, I just think I'm a big Desean Watson fan, so I put Watson on my list higher than Dak. But Watson has yet to do or have a better season than Dak Prescott. I personally think he's better, but by the numbers and by wins, he's never had a better season than Dak Prescott.
First, okay.
Yards, more touchdowns, more wins. Like, he's not better.
The big misconception with this Dak thing is this. Yes, Dak, last year his numbers were pretty good. But this first 3 years, his numbers were fairly pedestrian. It was more game manager. But last year, his numbers were so inflated because first, the Cowboys got pass happy. Me personally, I don't think the Cowboys are as good as the team when they are pass happy. I think they need to set up the run and then throw the football. But that's neither here or there. Dak they were pass happy last year. They often found themselves trailing in a lot of games. Honestly, the two biggest games that stand out for me and what I need to know about Dak Prescott is this. The Philadelphia game late in the year at Philadelphia, and the Patriots game against New England, at New England and at Philly. Those were two road games that I thought if Dak wins these two road games and he plays well, that will get Dak a contract. Dak, you know what Dak did? In 8 quarters of football, 0 touchdowns, 0 touchdown drives. He failed miserably. Tom Brady, we always talk about how much Tom Brady, I get it. Tom Brady he's the greatest quarterback of all time. Bill Belichick, greatest coach of all time. But you telling me Dak couldn't score a touchdown? He's a top 10 quarterback? Get out of here. He had the better O-line, he had the better receivers. And then you look at Carson Wentz and what Carson Wentz was doing. Carson Wentz trailed all last year in the division. He was throwing, you want to talk about lawn chairs? That's who Carson Wentz. He was throwing to guys named Boston, and he plays in Philly. We don't even know. We didn't even know some of the guys that Carson Wentz was thrown to late in the year, and Philly was still able to beat Dallas. And Dak was a no-show. He underperformed. So I like Dak. I like Dak, but those two big games really stood out to me, and I think those games were really important for Dak's contract because I think if Dak wins those games, because if Dak wins those games, the Cowboys get to the playoffs. And, who knows what happens in the playoffs. I think that would have been good enough to get him a second contract, but he lost those games, and he just didn't lose those games. He did not play well in those games at all. And another thing, one last thing. When you're talking about Desean Watson, the reason why I like Russell Wilson, Desean Watson so much, because they get it done regardless of the matter. Dak came into the league. He inherited a great offensive line. The Cowboys drafted Ezekiel Elliott. The Cowboys have always put great weapons around Dak. And he's had an offensive-minded coach all of his years. Now, if you were to come up with a list of things that a young quarterback needs to succeed, all of those things will be checked off for Dak Prescott. Good O-line, good running back, weapons, and a coach that's offensively minded. Now, Jason Garrett may not be the greatest coach, but he was offensively minded. Now he has Mike McCarthy, so we'll see what he does. But you look at a guy like Russell Wilson or a guy like Desean Watson, bad O-lines. Carson Wentz, bad O-lines. Subpar defenses, mediocre receivers, and they still get it done. And when I see Dak without, have we seen Dak without Tyron Smith? He looks lost. Dak without Ezekiel Elliott?
Yeah, you see Wentz without Lane Johnson? Oh my! Wentz without Lane Johnson has a loser. Okay, let's start here. Dak is winning record against Carson Wentz. So we talking about all these Eagles and Cowboys games. He beat them more than he's beat them. Also, did the Eagles sweep Dallas last year? Does anybody know that? They didn't. I forget. Dallas won a game as well. So we talking about this one game. They won one.
You talking about the first game. You talking about the first game that don't matter.
Also, let's not.
Wentz better
that game. So does he play better with the lawn chairs, or does he play better with Alshon Jeffrey? He plays better with worse people. As wild as that sounds, Wentz plays better when the talent for some reason isn't there. He played his best season was when Jason Peters was out. Let's think about this. When his line was at the peak, he had his best season. When his receivers are out, he had the best end of the season. But when everything's together, it doesn't work for him. That's why he didn't make the playoffs 2 years ago. That's when Nick Foles, on the other hand, needs for everything to work out. Wentz, for some reason, has this thing where I want to carry the team, but if it's too good, I can't be good. I don't know what it is about him. When things are going good for the Eagles, he doesn't play good.
Well, Ron, I feel what you're saying, Ron, but you're pointing to the fact of why Carson Wentz is better than Dak Prescott. Number one, Carson Wentz, saying the fact that Carson Wentz doesn't need the requisite talent around him to be able to play good. It shows the fact how good he is and how Dak Prescott needs that talent. Because at the end of the day, I've been telling you about this, of how when Dak plays better with Zeke than without Zeke. He does not play good without Zeke. He needs that running game to be able to have any type of weapon to be able to do a lot of good play action. Because number one, Dak, I think it was the year before last season, he was like number one or top 5 in play action, stuff like that. He needed Ezekiel Elliott to run the football. He needed Ezekiel to have a good day on the ground to be able to be effective. Carson Wentz does not have to do that. And I agree with everything you said, Isaiah, because you know what? These Cowboys fans just don't understand. They just don't understand. They're just one-minded.
I'm one of them.
Rodgers one. I just don't get it. Aaron Rodgers had a terrible season. It was not good. It was not a top 5 season last year. It was not. You're saying had a better pass than Aaron Rodgers. You talking about Tannehill? He had a better QBR than Aaron Rodgers last season. So we want to bring up Tannehill. Let's bring him up and compare him to Aaron Rodgers.
You very well may be right about that. Aaron did not have his best season, but you're saying, Aaron had a bad season last year. Well, he went 13-3, got to a conference championship, and had 26 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. If that's a bad year for Aaron Rodgers, okay.
That's bad. For his standard, that is freaking bad. He's a Hall of Fame player.
But that's better than everybody else.
If you go from Hall of Fame to not a Pro Bowl season, you had a bad year.
26 touchdowns and 4 interceptions?
That's not a Pro Bowl year. That's not a Pro Bowl year.
What?
That's not a Pro Bowl year.
26 touchdowns and 4 interceptions?
Dak, 30-11 in the same conference. Matt Ryan, 26-14. Let's not forget about Drew Brees. He threw 74%. He's not.
But you're talking about. But think it is. He's talking about teams who had their receiving core, who have a stat receiver. Number one, Matt Ryan has a stat receiving core better than what Aaron Rodgers have. Dak Prescott has a receiving core better than what Aaron Rodgers has.
But we always have a good team.
But Aaron Rodgers still had 4 less touchdowns than Dak. With Devontae Adams injured almost half of the season. Had 4 less touchdowns than that.
I can't make them a GM. I'm sorry they don't have a real owner. That's not my fault. I'm sorry.
It's not. But this is the point, though. It's not about that. It's not about that, though. The fact is that we see that Aaron Rodgers. We're saying 26-4 is not good on Aaron Rodgers standards, but you see that it's better on a lot of people's standards. A lot of quarterbacks would love to have 26-4. To be honest, 26-4 might have exactly 26-4 might have gave Dak Prescott a new contract. You know what I'm saying? No. So it's just like, but it's just the fact that you gotta understand that Aaron Rodgers doesn't have enough weapons around him to be able to be effective as he should have or as he could. Because at the end of the day.
So you say he don't have weapons. He never will. He plays for Green Bay. We can't. So it's like we're saying, bro. Dak's only good with weapons. He always will have those weapons, though. We will never not have weapons.
Well, no.
We will never not have weapons.
In the league, being a great quarterback, you have to be able to go like with guys. Would you feel comfortable if Amari Cooper went down and if your offense had a lot of injuries this upcoming year? I don't want to wish anything on the Cowboys, but if your offense had a lot of injuries this year, like say if Zach Martin went down and Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup went down, would you feel confident about Dak Prescott going into and your schedule is pretty tough? Would you feel comfortable about Dak going into that situation with some injuries on offense? Because I would, if it was Russell Wilson, I would. If it was Desean Watson, I would.
If my team lost its best left tackle and its best wide receiver, only person I'm feeling comfortable with that is Tom Brady in the NFL right now. Patrick Mahomes, we love Mahomes. Has he ever had not the weapons? Has he ever had a hurt team? Do we know if Patrick Mahomes can play hurt? We don't know that. We can assume, I would assume that. Has he played without weapons? Also, he has Andy Reid. So that's also, even if he doesn't have weapons, it's freaking Andy Reid.
Who's Russell Wilson been thrown to? And I know DK.
When is the last time
Greg Olsen? Now, Jimmy Graham.
Greg Olsen, 35-year-old Greg Olsen.
Come on, really? I know people are going to talk about DK Metcalf, but DK Metcalf come out of the draft. They were saying he looked like Tarzan, plays like Jane, though. Yeah. So basically. He made DK Metcalf.
He made receivers.
Made DK Metcalf. He made Will Dissly.
He made Tyler Lockett.
You could say that, but he
was a gadget guy. Tyler Lockett coming out of college was a gadget guy.
But what do you?
Dak.
What do you all want from me?
But Ron, you're talking about.
You don't know if that's possible.
That shouldn't be on your list.
But Ron, you're talking about.
That's a 1,000-yard guy, 3rd round pick. Who knew Michael Gallup in college? I sure didn't play for Colorado State. What colors do they wear? Like, I didn't see Michael Gallup. He's
so what you're trying to tell me is that made Michael Gallup? Is what you're telling me?
I was saying made the guy, but who did you know Michael Gallup in college? Is it just me? Was he the top 10?
You're trying to tell me that made Michael Gallup did something crazy.
What color do they wear? That's how much he was irrelevant in college. That irrelevant that I could not tell you what color his college team wore. Like, so I'm not gonna say he made the guy. Also, was Amari Cooper hiding in Oakland? I mean, Amari Cooper was very good. I love Cooper, but was he 1,000-yard receiver when we traded for him? He wasn't.
He's still. I mean, look who he had. Derek Carr throwing the ball, but he still was a pretty good receiver. You cannot deny the fact. You cannot deny the fact when Zeke had his judicial issues and he didn't play. Those first 3 games without Ezekiel Elliott, Dak struggled miserably.
It wasn't really because
struggled.
I would say it's more Tyron Smith. The Tyron Smith is people don't understand that your left tackle is significant. Well, we've already talked about
know that
running back. So when Tyron goes down, it is not looking good. It's not looking good. Let's not forget last year when freaking when Isaiah went for New England's left tackle went down. What the heck went down? Brady was getting hit every play. It was not the same. That's why their offense was trash. The receivers need more time, but they're slow. That's why New England offense was not as good last year. The left tackle went down in the preseason. That is a key position. Zeke, it looks good to me. I ain't gonna lie to you. Tony Pollard looks pretty good to me, and I expect.
So why did the Cowboys play? Why did the Cowboys pay Zeke then?
Hey, you tell me. I wouldn't pay. That's for another day about paying running backs.
Okay.
But anyway, I know we want to move on. I know Malcolm had Matt Ryan in his list, so I know. I know you had him as an honorable mention. I thought about putting him in my list, but then I realized Matt Ryan. Now we talking about somebody that has weapons. Who said better weapons than Matt Ryan in his career? I mean, he's basically had the number 1 receiver of our lifetime besides Calvin Johnson, Antonio Brown. It's Julio Jones, and he's not a diva. You've had Sanu, you've had Austin Hooper,
Ridley,
your tackles
Roddy White.
The line is pretty bad. I forgot about Roddy White, Tony Gonzalez, and you've won no Super Bowl. You did get to a Super Bowl, but you choked in the Super Bowl. You've had decent playoff runs. They've been. He had a good year in the playoffs. I mean, the Super Bowl year. But I mean, Matt Ryan, what is that about? I don't understand that. I mean, somebody that has weapons. I mean, he's the best in the NFL.
I'm talking about top 10 quarterback. Number 1.
I'm gonna let him explain.
Let's understand what Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan has, number 1, he has the receivers this year to be able to make it work. Number 2, another big thing is health. As you can see, the past couple of years, Atlanta Falcons struggle in health. Actually, there was top 5, and how many players that was on IR and stuff like that. You've seen people flying out, going off like flies. I speak to 2 years ago because last year it was a little up and down, and he still had a decent season. I speak 2 years ago because he had an MVP season, but his defense was so injured. They had backups playing on the defensive side, which hampered his chance to go to the playoffs, which year was 7-9 that year. I just say that this year, you have another, you have added talent in, Todd Gurley and them boys and stuff like that. And I think that Matt Ryan has the requisites and all the, the weapons in place to be able to have a top 10 quarterback type of season. So that's what I think, though. But
okay. I think Matt Ryan is a top tier. I think he's a top 10 quarterback caliber type of guy. My thing is, like, when we're talking about if we were talking about tiers, people like to put Matt Ryan in the A tier. People like to put Matt Ryan in the A tier. And I think he is one of the easiest quarterbacks to evaluate. When you look at this is what I do. You take their worst year, you take their best years. You take those 2 years away from them. We all know Matt Ryan had an MVP year in 2016. He had a great year in 2016. His worst year was his rookie year. You take those 2 years away from him, he is a B+ quarterback. And it's like a realtor. a realtor, he has all B sales, but he sold the mansion, and he sold that mansion because his parents knew somebody that knew somebody that wanted a mansion. That one A sale does not make him a realtor, and that's what it is with Matt Ryan. That one A season does not make Matt Ryan a quarterback. Now, as far as the top 10 quarterback, I had on my honorable mention, but with Matt Ryan, he just simply doesn't win enough games. And, Malcolm mentioned injuries and the defense. And I'm like, well, Russell Wilson goes, Will Dissly was out for Russell Wilson. And I keep, I like Russell Wilson, but I hate to keep referring back to him. But it seems like Russell Wilson just overcomes everything because, receivers, running backs hurt, defense is hit or miss. Russell Wilson still gets the job done. And Matt Ryan, he just does not win enough games in a division where Tampa Bay has been irrelevant for the most part. Carolina has been up and down for the most part. New Orleans is the only bona fide team in that division. So with Matt Ryan, with him only going like 7-9 and winning 6 and 7 games these last few years, it just doesn't help his case.
And that's understandable. That's understandable. That's the reason why, Russell Wilson is number 2 because of what he has done. And I understand that, because he could do things like that. I don't think the same thing Matt Ryan could do the same thing, but I think Matt Ryan has a lot of weapons around him for him able to produce. And I think that he's not that quarterback that's going to win you games, but he's going to quarterback that's going to put up numbers and he's going to put you in a position. But I just think that his defense hasn't been there for him. It's just like he's playing high scoring frenzy with everybody he plays against because he has to outscore the next person. So it's just like, and Matt Ryan's not that type of quarterback. So he's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not going to go ahead and just go gunsling crazy. But Matt Ryan has the talent to do that, but he's not Patrick Mahomes, if you understand what I'm saying. Like, he doesn't have that takeover mentality, which we all know that. But at the end of the day, he does produce his numbers. And if you give him a team around him, like a solid team, he'll go to the Super Bowl like he did before. And another thing is, I was talking about 2 years ago because his MVP season, he had 35 touchdowns. And I think it was 38 touchdowns and 7 picks. And 2 years later, which was like 2 years before, he had a 35 and 7. So it just shows that he could do it again if he has the right talent around him. And it's not just like it was a fluke season. Like, Matt Ryan still has talent and could still have those games where he can have 35 and 7. But I just think that his team needs to be healthy and he needs to have the right supporting cast around him to be able to produce that. So, yeah.
Yeah, Matt Ryan, I've seen enough of you. You and Matthew Stafford, I've seen enough. You all have a lot of talent. You're good players. But it's time. It's time. It's time. How many seasons do you want me to give you? You're third in the division with Jameis Winston as the other quarterback. You've actually had a worse record than him before. You've had a worse record than Jameis Winston before in your career. You've had a 6-win season. You all have put this guy with a 6-win season, multiple 6-win seasons, by the way, on your list. He has Julio Jones. Devontae Freeman has been hurt. I guess that's your big loss. 49ers last year with freaking undrafted free agents in the Super Bowl. The Chiefs last year with an undrafted running back in the Super Bowl. So I don't want to hear about that, about this running back thing. That doesn't mean anything for me. Just like Matthew Stafford, even though his is a significantly worse situation than Matt Ryan. But I've seen enough of Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan's going to go 7-9 this year. They're the third best team in the division again. So you're going to put somebody in the division that's not going to make the playoffs again. He has no chance of making the playoffs this season. They are not better than New Orleans, and they're not better than that. They're going to be the third team in their own division. It is no reason I'm putting a third team on my list. He might throw 30 touchdowns again, and that's going to be nice and all that. But at the end of the day, Matt don't win games. Like, yeah, I mean, I know it's just the Matt and Matt. It's just so easy to compare them, but they just have so much gifted talent. This is why I say talent really is very tricky because a lot of people that don't have the arm talent of these guys are better. And you go back to Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's arm is as good as Matt Stafford or Matt Ryan, but he gets it done because at the end of the day, talent is this. This is talent. What are your intangibles? Are you a leader? Do people listen to you? Are you a leader among men? That means something. I haven't seen Matt Ryan lead anything. Like, you see him in the huddle. I mean, at least Jameis Winston, he out there biting his fingers. He trying to do something to get the team hyped up. I ain't seen Matt Ryan give a speech. I mean,
I feel what you're saying. I'm gonna I'm gonna end it with this though. But and then if you have something to say, you can say something. But what I was gonna say is, you bring up those two quarterbacks in Matt Ryan and Matthew Stafford, and then you compare it to Russell Wilson, which is understandable. To understand that you gotta compare those to such a great quarterback, Russell Wilson. But at the end of the day, you see that Russell Wilson he got brought into a very good situation. You know what I'm saying? He had receivers. He had decent. He had decent receivers.
That was Russell Antonio Gonzalez. I mean,
but no. Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan the team wasn't as good as the Seattle Seahawks had a defense. They had a okay type of receiving core. It was decent enough, but it wasn't that. It was all right? And you had a decent offensive line, and you had Marshawn Lynch in the back. So you had a decent type of surrounding around you where you had a very good head coach and Pete Carroll. But at the end of the day, you look at Matthew Stafford, Matt Ryan. Do you think do you see the same head coach that they had when they first got on the team?
Dan Quinn actually under Pete Carroll. So that was actually the defensive coordinator of the 2013 Super Bowl was Dan Quinn.
Yeah, Dan Quinn. But I'm just saying that Dan Quinn wasn't a head coach before. He wasn't a head coach before. And that's another thing. It's another thing to say about Matthew Stafford. Number one about Matthew Stafford is I feel like his was a lot different than everybody else. Because number one, Detroit went 0-16 the year before they got him. So he's trying to build that organization up, from the bottom up. And at the end of the day, you do not see you could tell me out of all Matthew Stafford's years that you haven't seen a very good round out team, like a very good round out team with defense and offense. You have never seen that in any of Matthew Stafford's career. You've seen some good players, as in Calvin Johnson, come by, or Marvin Jones come by, and all these other guys, Kevin Golladay. But you never seen a round out team. It's always a very good offense or a bad defense, or a very good a good defense and a bad offense doesn't have any weapons around them. And can you tell me the last time Matthew Stafford had at least a running back that at least went over 1,000 yards?
That was the last one.
Don't know. You don't know. That's the point. So I think that we're getting a lot of shame on Matthew Stafford, but I can understand we can get shame on Matt Ryan because Matt Ryan had a stacked offensive squad, and he had years where his defense and offense were at least decent. Matthew Stafford never had that. So that's another thing too.
I like Matthew Stafford. I think I like his arm talent. His talent is unbelievable. He was the number one quarterback coming out of high school, number one quarterback coming out of college, number one draft pick. The talent is undeniable. But like Ron said, I don't know how much longer we have to wait on Matthew Stafford. I was pretty surprised that Detroit didn't draft a quarterback or go after a quarterback because Matthew Stafford has never won a division. He's gone to the playoffs one time. He's never won a playoff game. And yeah, he plays in Detroit. The Lions aren't good. They're a dysfunctional franchise themselves. But at some point in time, it's been 11 years. You gotta move on. You gotta move on. And it's similar to, and that's why I hope the Cowboys play it right and play it smart. Because if they sign Dak to a huge guarantee, if they sign him to a huge deal, they'll end up just like the Lions in salary cap hell, or the Rams, salary cap hell, and stuck with probably the third or worst quarterback in the division, possibly. But with Matt Stafford, I'm tired of waiting. I'm just tired of waiting.
And it's understandable. I feel it.
Yeah, if you're 33 and you're still having these same problems you were having at 23, I'm done with it. You're an old. You're not a spring chicken. There's not improving. It's done. You've climaxed. You've peaked. So what I have is what I have with you now. So Matthew Stafford, your only option of the resurrect your career is to go to New England. That's what I thought was best for your career. It didn't happen. I would have thought significantly different about this season for you, but you're still in Detroit. You do have a great receiving core. Galladay, he didn't lead, I think he led the league in touchdowns last year. He was top 3 in touchdowns. Galladay, Marvin Jones is a great number 2. When Galladay went down, he was a great number 1.
T.J. Hawkinson.
Yeah, you have a good tight end.
A good tight end. Yeah,
running back. They drafted a running back, and they still have Kerryon Johnson. So you have potential, but
I know I had Jimmy G on my list. Go
ahead. We can talk about Jimmy G in a sec, but I'm just saying, Matthew Stafford was having a good year until he got injured, but you can go ahead and talk about yours though. I want to hear about Jimmy G, porn star Jimmy. I want to hear that.
Okay, so let me sit up for this one. So Jimmy Garoppolo, I'm a huge fan. Obviously, I got him in my top 10 quarterback. I think he's a top 10 quarterback. He's not in the top 5, obviously, but he's more 9. Garoppolo is as simple as this. He wins games. Ron is talking about it now. He wins games. He's 19-5 as a starter with the San Francisco 49ers. You can say great defense. You can say Kyle Shanahan. Well, Kyle Shanahan had that good defense in his offensive mind. 49ers wasn't winning games. They weren't winning games until Jimmy Garoppolo got there, and now they're practically unbeatable. And I know people bang on him because he had a bad fourth quarter against Patrick Mahomes. I don't know. Patrick Mahomes is only the best quarterback in football, but I still see Jimmy G as a top 10 quarterback, and he's young.
I see what you're saying. But with San Francisco 49ers, there's so many positions that I will look at before I'll look at Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, there's so many defensive line. I'll look at the running backs. I'll look at the coaching staff before I'll look at a guy, Jimmy Garoppolo, leading the way. I'll think that they have more impact. The reason why they're doing good before I would say Jimmy Garoppolo. And then, so.
Yeah, I mean, I like Jimmy G. He was my, if I had an honorable mention, he'd be my honorable mention because what he's done, and you can see when he's out of the lineup. I'm very skeptical. I do think a lot of people can do what he does with them. But you can say that about a lot of quarterbacks, to be honest. If we've been Mahomes, Wilson, Lamar, they really, well, even Lamar, to be honest, that Ravens team is stacked. But two people, I'm like, I can switch these people around. But I don't know. After this season, if he has another good season, then he'll definitely be in my top 10 list. He's pretty accurate. He got the personality. People definitely follow him. That's undeniable. I've seen enough with that. But that's all. That's my last comment.
I mean, Garoppolo, I know some people are gonna be like, oh, he had a bad fourth quarter against Kansas City. Well, it's Kansas City. I think they're gonna be the next dynasty in the league. But with Garoppolo, you can say you mention things, their O-line, their D-line, their coaching. You mention those things before you get to Jimmy Garoppolo, but they had those things. They weren't winning games. So it's about winning football games, and Garoppolo does that at a high rate, and they're practically unbeatable with Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think they had a good defense and a good offensive line before he got there, but I mean, they built it up, and I feel like they had it all at the right time when he got healthy. But at the end of the day, I got you.
All right, definitely drop questions on this video. Thank you, Isaiah, for being a special guest.
No problem. Hey guys, follow our Instagram and our Twitter at M&R Show. We have different segments and videos that we post up there, every week. So just tune in, guys. You guys have a great afternoon.